Okay, I may be from True Legal Media. The essence of this interview is just to be able to bring you out to our readers and put you out there. Can you introduce yourself to our readers?
My name is Ronnie Tjale, and I'm a married man. I'm married. I've been married for 12 years now, and I'm blessed with two boys and one girl.
Okay, so what is your profession, if I may ask?
My profession, I'll describe myself as an independent economic analyst. I'm also a lecturer, a consultant, and I'm also a speaker.
Like a motivational speaker?
Yes.
Do you give public speeches? Maybe people pay you money to do that, or how do you go about that?
I also give, I do motivations via that, and sometimes people pay me. Sometimes I do them for, just for the fun
Volunteer.
of years.
Okay. So, well, you said you're a consultant. What qualifies you as a consultant?
What qualifies you is you apply your knowledge in solving problems. That's what qualifies me as a consultant. A client can come to you with a certain problem, and then you apply your knowledge. If that is the area of your expertise, then you help the client. That's
What I'm trying to get to is you are educated, obviously. If we can talk about your educational background, maybe right from the beginning, how you started, maybe how much qualification you've acquired up to date.
Yes. When I started, my very first qualification, that's the qualification I did in training to become a teacher. That was the first qualification, but I only did 1 year of it. Then the following year, I moved on to go and study electrical engineering at Val University of Technology. I did both the national diploma and the national high diploma there. Then I moved on, then I did my BCom with UNISA, and I was majoring with marketing, finance, and economics.
Okay, so those are the degrees you have. So yes. I understand you are equally a lecturer too at some university.
Yes, I am a lecturer as well in the electrical engineering. But my job predominantly is I'm the link between the university itself and the industry. That is, the students who do electrical engineering, they go out to do their in-service training. I'm more of the link between industry and the university.
To take your mind back, because the essence, we pride ourselves in being the voice for the voiceless. What we try to get from people, outstanding people like you in the society, if we can get a kind of a role model for people out there, maybe you never know who will be listening to what we're talking here, that it will help them.
Yes.
So how did you get into education? Did you study via bursary, or did your parents save money for you, or how did that happen? Maybe you can tell us. I know it might be many years ago.
I was fortunate enough because when I went for my first qualification, when I was trained as a technical teacher, I had a government bursary. Then I moved on. I had two companies which were sponsoring my studies. My parents never actually had stress of paying for my studies. I was covered. All my studies, I was covered.
So would you say it's as a result of you choosing the field which you choose, or do you think that is something that is easily accessible to young South African youths?
The first thing is your marks when you finish your matric. That's what counts. Secondly is the course that you choose, how important it is to the economy at that particular time. So with me, when I started, it was easy because at that time, the South African government wanted to train more people in engineering, and it was much easy for me to get a bursary to study electrical engineering.
So would you say, what would you say has been the benefit of you as a result of you having education, comparing with the people, the society, where you come from? Where do you come from originally?
I come from Sebokeng. It's in the Val Triangle. It's a place next to Sharpeville. There was a Sharpeville massacre, many people know Sharpeville internationally, but there's a place next to it called Sebokeng. That's where I come from.
Okay, where was your first deployment or employment when you finished your very first job?
My very first job.
How was that like?
It was tough. My very first job because I don't want to mention the company where I trained, and it was that time when people started. I was the first black person to start there as in electrical engineering, and people did not accept it because that was 1990 when I started. People were not even ready that a black person will start doing that job, and it was tough.
So you suffered racism firsthand?
Yes, I was called. In fact, one of the person who welcomed me in that company called me a windbreaker. That is all the cold wind. I'm the one who's gonna block the cold wind for other black people who will join the company. That's how I was described.
So how did you progress from that company? How did you leave? How was that, like, how did you, you started with the company, today you're a lecturer. How did that
What
happen?
happened? I completed my program with the company and I moved on. That's when I had this love of just paying back the community, and I went to become a teacher for almost 3 years, where I was teaching electrical engineering at high school.
Okay.
That was more like my payback to my society, and I felt good of what I did at that particular time. And then I moved on. I ended up being a lecturer.
Okay, you taught in the high school for 3 years after leaving the company. Then what happened after the high school? Did you go back straight to study, or you became a lecturer and then you studied part time?
After that, I studied full time, and then I worked for another company in Johannesburg. And then after that, I continued studying. And the BCom that I didn't do it full time. I did it while I was working, and I did it while I was a lecturer of electrical engineering.
Okay, since you are a lecturer, you will have a lot of interaction with young South African, both female and male. What will be some of the kind of, like, advice or suggestion you will put out there for the youth who are looking to choose a career, who are in a jumped up position? They don't know where to go with themselves. They say there are a lot of graduates out there. They finish school, they can get jobs. Why should they study all of those things? What would you say to them as a lecturer?
This question is a very important question. In one of the books that I'm writing called Making Wealth Through Applied Knowledge, there is where the chapter which is called Who Are You? I'm looking at passion. The most important thing about yourself as a student or as somebody who wants to study further, firstly, know yourself. If you know that you love, for instance, you love being an architect, or you love being an engineer, that must be your passion. It must be what you love with all of your heart. And then once you love that, then you register it at the university or at the college, wherever you can study. But the most important thing, then you work hard, very hard. And the third thing, you make sure that as you work hard, you avoid anything which will remove you from your vision and your dream. Things like bad friends, things like alcohol, things like drugs, things like running around with girls, things like spending time with people who will just waste your time. It's important to focus, to make sure that you rub shoulders with people who are focused, and then get yourself a mentor, somebody who is in the field that you love. If that person is your neighbor or your teacher or somebody that you know, make that person your role model and visit that person, get more information to equip yourself, and get anything, whether it's a magazine or a radio program or television program, which is talking about your career, what you want to study, and work hard. Watch that channel, read that magazine, and get more information to strengthen yourself, and that will make you a better person in choosing your career.
Personally, people looking at you from your own journey, what was the defining moment that made you to choose your career? Do you have like a role model? Who will you give the credit to?
It was very difficult for us that time. That was long back. Television was not something which was talking about these things. It was very tough to choose a career. And then what made me to choose electrical engineering, it was just through reading about it in one of the magazines of careers. And I thought maybe this is something that I would push. But honestly speaking, I wish I had information earlier to know more about almost all careers before I could even start. It was tough at that time. But fortunate enough, the young people of today have the media, they have television, they have magazines to actually know more about any course which they may want to study. But with me, I must admit, it was tough because the role models were very few. As you know, it was the time of apartheid when you would hardly hear a black person being in engineering. In fact, in 1982 or so, it was rare. I mean, for you to find a black person doing engineering. So role models were difficult for us. That was our challenge at that time.
You've had the privilege of living through apartheid and then you're the new South Africa. And
Yes.
now you've lived in Johannesburg and practice your career. You now live in Cape Town and practice your career here. How would you compare the two experiences? And what would you say have been the lesson that you've learned from this experience?
You know, under apartheid, it was people were channeled, opportunities were few, and it was information was few, and then sometimes information people could not get full information under apartheid, and opportunities were not there. And today, opportunities are there, and unfortunately, opportunities come also with a lot of freedom. That is why young people have so much freedom, whereby they can choose to do right, and they can also choose to do wrong. I mean, you go to universities today, you only hear about cases about drugs, you hear about alcohol, you hear about parties, you hear about all these things. And choices are there. But today, if a young person decides to do right and decides to choose the correct things, he will go far in life. He or she will go far in life. But during apartheid, opportunities were not there. It was tough. Yes.
How will you compare working in Cape Town and Johannesburg? How is the experience like? Is the attitude of the white people towards the black elite, or maybe the black educated person in South Africa? How has that progressed? Would you say there's a lot of tolerance towards the black educated person today, more in Johannesburg or more in Cape Town, or what would you say is across the board the experience?
What I would say, for me, it's going to be difficult to actually see the difference because I speak almost most South African languages. I'm very fluent in Afrikaans as well. And here in Cape Town, most of the time I speak Afrikaans. Sometimes I speak English. And for me, it's difficult to see the difference. To say here in the Western Cape, people are like this, there in Johannesburg, people are like that. I don't see that much because from language point of view, you know, Nelson Mandela said if you want to go to a man's heart, you must speak his language. Maybe it's an advantage for me. I don't see much of any difference because also I'm a person who has this interpersonal skills of being able to talk to people and talk about issues, and I am able to adjust to start a topic with a person of different background. I can talk to a white person about a certain issue that I know he may be interested in, and we start flowing. And for me, it's a bit difficult to see the difference. But the other thing that I may say, attitude also plays a very important role. There are people who are neighbors who actually don't talk to each other. And the reason they don't do that, both of them have attitude that that guy does not like people. And he's also saying, no, that other guy does not like people. But once the two people sit together, they both realize that no one has attitude between the two of them. They are all good people. So I've realized attitude is the biggest barrier to people. And in networking also, attitude affects people to network and just to flow. And with me, it's different because I can talk to anyone. And the issue of speaking many languages is an advantage to me. I'm able to break the ice and talk to so many people. So it's difficult for me to say in a certain area people are like this, in that area people are like that. Wherever I go, if I go to a place where things don't flow for me, I make them to flow for me. And that has been my advantage in life.
Okay, now we will go back to the important core. Your core being the education, education as a lecturer. So
Yeah.
what I would like to know is, what would be the advice to young people out there who can get to study, who don't have money? What should they do, in your opinion, and what is there available for them at the universities? Do you know of any government programs or any other thing, what they can go through in order to get bursaries, in order to get admission? And what is that process like? Maybe there's something you can say that can help people out there.
The first thing which is very important, they must start with their marks. There's no point of me giving them addresses if the student marks are very low. For them is to set a target first, to say, I want to achieve 90% average on my subjects, or 80%, whatever the target which they put. Once they've put that target, then they've crossed the first hurdle. Now the second thing now is then going through opportunities that are there. If they go to the website, they Google Department of Higher Education, or they Google At universities, there is NEFSAS, which helps students to study. But all these organizations, and there are also a lot of companies that are giving bursaries. And if you go to the university, you go to the department which deals with bursaries, which will be the bursary department, and you get there, there are a list of bursaries that are available to students. But all of them, they want people with good grades, good marks. And the second thing, which is very important, is the thing that I talked about when I talked about passion. If you know the career that you want to study and you are passionate about it, you have done your own research. Many bursary companies that issue bursaries, they want a person to write a motivation, whereby you write a letter of 4 pages to say why you want to study that program. And if you are clueless about what you want to study, there's no way they'll give you the bursary, because they know that you are not sure of yourself. How can people trust somebody who does not even trust himself or herself? And it's very important that once you know your passion, you know where you want to go as a person, then you start working on your marks, and it's easy for you to get a bursary. And one thing that I just want to tell people is that for every door which is closed, if you look for a door, you can't find a door. Somewhere there's a window which is open. And if for instance, there's one young man that I met who did electrical engineering, and then he works for one of the cellular phone companies. He went to the company straight, got inside, and he told them that his passion is to work within the cell phone industry. And he explained to them his passion since he was young. He started explaining to the people in that company. Immediately, the manager took his details to the person who works with bursaries, and the guy was awarded a bursary on the spot. And that was pushed by his passion, also his marks. He had two things that he could produce at that company. And today he's one of the few people being sponsored by that company. And my message to young people is that know yourself first. Know yourself first. You know, a teaspoon knows its job is to put sugar in the tea for people to enjoy tea. It understands itself. If you know yourself exactly what your potential is, what your strong points are, then you'll be able to make a difference in your career, in your life.
Okay, in the teaching sector, based on your experience, would you say women are advancing as they should, or would you? What do you? I'm not saying it's your position to do that, but your experience. Do you see a lot of women going to teaching, and are they progressing? Is the system very accommodating or supportive of women who aspire to be lecturers in South Africa?
The system is actually promoting women. I must admit that opportunities are there for them to grow. As long as they work hard, opportunities are there for them to grow. Honestly speaking, our government is so sensitive on such issues, and they are making sure that women are empowered. And we are in an era whereby, I remember there was one company which only said it wants to employ women, to empower them. And opportunities are there. The only thing that our sisters should do is to work hard, to set their dreams and their goals, their vision. Opportunities are there for them, and they are ready for them.
What were your dreams growing up? Have you achieved them?
One of my biggest dreams is to be able to make a difference in the society. The book that I'm currently writing, it talks about making wealth through applied knowledge. My greatest dream is to see somebody who has a degree, for instance, in chemical engineering, being able to solve the problems in the rural areas of sanitation. And my greatest worry, my greatest problem is that young people today, many people, when they study and they get their qualifications for the sake of looking for jobs. My dream, if I can be able to influence the society through the book, that when you do a certain qualification, you're not doing it to get a job, but you are doing it to become an entrepreneur through your knowledge. That is, if you have done a PhD or master's in languages. Your job then should be a person who will write books that we'll use to teach our children a specific language and to excel in that language. That's your job, not to get a degree and then starting looking for jobs. And that's what is the greatest burden in my heart. I've seen a lot of guys, when they try to go into a business, they want to do business which is not linked to their knowledge. And then that creates a problem. One of my greatest problems is that two people, one in Africa will do a degree in IT. One in America also is doing a degree in IT, information technology. But then the gadgets that we use are all from outside Africa. And we don't have gadgets that are from Africa. Okay, of course, with the exception of what Kenya is doing, is pushing Africa. But we need that to happen more. We need to see our car in Africa. We don't have a car in Africa, for instance. All cars are from outside. But there are people who have studied the same mechanical engineering, automotive engineering in Africa. But we don't have a car in Africa. And this is being a problem that there is the limitation of us in Africa applying our knowledge in making products and services in Africa for Africans. And that's my greatest dream. If that can change, I would say that one of my dreams have been achieved.
Do you feel fulfilled?
Sorry?
Do you feel as a fulfilled human being? Are you happy with where you are in life with yourself? Or is there something else you think you're still looking forward to
There's a lot.
aside what you've just said?
As a matter of fact, it's like I was born for the second time where I am now, because I'm starting to see things differently. My first phase of life was to get knowledge. Now I'm in a second phase whereby now that knowledge has to be applied. And then I'm not yet fulfilled. There's a lot that I must achieve. Perhaps I'll be fulfilled once I reach age 60. After I've said that I've pushed this, now for me after 60, 65 is for me to enjoy the fruits. But for now, there's a lot of work that I have to do. I cannot relax and say I've achieved 1, 2, 3, therefore I must relax. There's a lot that I have to do in making a difference.
As a married man, how do you combine your family life with your professional career? Do you get support from your wife and the family, and how does that work for you?
How it works for me, there is a balance. I have a formula that I apply, which is firstly is God, secondly is my family, and thirdly is work. And I don't put the profession and work ahead of my family, because work will come and will go, but the family will be there forever. And I don't want my kids or my wife to suffer because of my profession, because my profession must not take me away from them. Spending time in family, with your family, that peace, it's actually the one which gives you more fuel to push your career. Because if your family is well, and your wife is well, everyone is well at home, then your career is well. But if you have it the other way around, that's a problem. Because many marriages have been broken because of careers. I mean, there's a joke now people have, they call MBA a marriage breaker. If they've done a research, some guys have done a research, the guys who completed their MBA qualifications, most of them lost their marriages. And it shouldn't be like that. As a matter of fact, your marriage and your family are the things that are supposed to make your profession to be even more stronger.
We live in South Africa where every day we hear a lot of abuse. What's your attitude or opinion on that?
You know, abuse, we talk about women abuse, we talk about children abuse. It's a sad state. It's very sad, where people want to push their agenda at the expense of other people. And one thing that I want to say to my brothers, if you are married and your wife has a different opinion, as a matter of fact, God designed her to have a different opinion, and you have your own opinion. It's important for two people who are married to make sure that they flow. The wife understands her role, and the husband understands his role, and both of them are able to flow and understand the differences. You cannot push your dream to another person, and another person cannot push his or her dream to the other one. And that is my philosophy. My philosophy is you respect the next person. And once you respect the next person, and even if you can be heard, and even those who are in marriages, even if your wife or your husband can hurt you, there is nothing that you can do trying to revenge or trying to put pain on another person. All you have to do in that situation, you don't have to do anything that will actually make you even more hurt. The most important thing, just have to understand that you cannot even try to change a person by hating a person. And men who beat their partners and saying they're teaching them a lesson, it's wrong. That must stop. It must stop. We must teach our family peace. We must treat our wives like queens. Treat our sisters like queens. Treat our daughters like queens. It's very important. And including the young kids that are, the young girls outside. You see, in my life, as a lecturer, I sometimes teach girls in my class. These girls are my daughters. I see them as my daughters. And once you propose your own student as a lecturer, it's abuse. Because you are abusing the future of the young girl. Because she's seeing you as a role model. The best thing you can do is to take her as your daughter. If she's hating, advise her. And if there's anything wrong, advise her. What I used to tell my students in class, I used to start the class by saying, if you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, go and dump him today. There's no point at the university studying while having a boyfriend or a girlfriend, because that on its own is a distraction. If you're doing 6 subjects, then you get a girlfriend, it's like now you're doing 12 subjects. Because now, your life now, you're now focusing on this late, and the time is not yet right. When you are at the university, the most important thing is to focus in your books. That's the most important thing. A lot of people go to university, they start focusing on girls, on boys. They come back with babies. Unfortunately, some even come back with AIDS. And they come back, their heart's been broken. And they fail their courses. Some of them will study with bursaries. They fail. After failing, you can't get a bursary anywhere. And you have a debt that you can't even pay. And your future is doomed. So the most important thing is that when you are a lecturer or a person of high profession, and I'm talking to, you may be a lawyer, you may be a manager, somebody may work in your office, and as a PA, a young PA can work for you at the age of 20, 21, you must treat that young lady as your daughter, because you cannot hurt your daughter. If you can't hurt your daughter, why do you want to hurt somebody's daughter? That's my take.
Well, we've slowly wind our little discussion down. Just few general words to people out there, maybe the youth especially, because I'm so passionate about the youth and women. You tend to have you seem to have covered everything, but maybe some final few words before we conclude.
One thing that I want to say about the young people out there is that firstly, they must know themselves, they must know their passion, and they must make education first so they can study, and they must respect the elders. You see, for a young man to live for a long time with blessings, that can only happen if you respect the elders. If an elder sends you somewhere or asks you somewhere, they respect. And people think that as things change, therefore how we respect the elders must change. That shouldn't change. In fact, we must strengthen it. It must be strong and strong and strong. That's my take, my brother.
Thank you so much for coming.